They didn't come for you with noise, they came with silence. They watched you, studied you, learned your strengths and your weaknesses like a grand strategy on a board. Every smile, every word, every step you took. They were recording it in their mind, and when they moved, it wasn't random, it was calculated. They were willing to give up small battles, to appear weak, to take losses in plain sight, because their eyes were on a bigger prize. While you were busy fighting the obvious, they were quietly building an invisible trap around you. They made you believe you had control, that every choice was yours, but in truth, the board was theirs from the start. And the most dangerous part, they didn't rush, they waited. They let time soften your guard, let your confidence grow, until one day, the move you thought would win the game became the move that ended it. But here's what they didn't expect. Games are played on boards, but life is not a board. You can stand up, you can walk away, and you can refuse to be a piece in someone else's strategy ever again. The lesson is simple. Don't just play the game. Learn to see the whole board. The silent observation. They didn't rush toward you like a storm. They settled around you like the air. Quiet, invisible, impossible to notice until it was too late. They didn't announce their presence with noise or chaos. Instead, they chose silence, because silence is the most dangerous weapon in the hands of the patient. While you spoke, they listened. While you acted, they watched. Every detail you revealed, how you think, what makes you smile, what makes you angry, when you lower your guard, became a piece of information stored in the hidden chambers of their mind. They weren't in a hurry because they knew that the power to win doesn't come from moving first. It comes from knowing exactly when and how to move. Every conversation you thought was harmless, every moment you thought was casual, was another page in the book they were writing about you. You didn't even realize you were teaching them your patterns, how you react under pressure, how you celebrate success, and most importantly, when you're most likely to make a mistake. They didn't need to confront you head on because their strategy was built in the shadows. They let you feel comfortable, safe, and in control. They let you think you knew the game when in reality they were mapping it far beyond your vision. You see, silent observation is not passive, it is active. It is the sharpening of a blade without a sound. It is the preparation of a storm without a cloud in sight. And by the time the first strike comes, it feels like it came from nowhere. But here's the truth they never considered. Once you become aware that someone is watching, the entire balance of power changes, because the one being observed can learn to observe back. The one being studied can start studying. The one who was once predictable can suddenly become unpredictable. That's the beauty of awareness. It flips the board. You don't have to shout to defend yourself. You don't have to match their silence with noise. You just have to turn your stillness into strength, your patience into a weapon of your own. Because when they realize you've been watching them just as carefully, when they see that you now understand the game, their power begins to crumble. And suddenly, the one who was once the hunter becomes the hunted. Silent observation may have been their greatest advantage, but once you've seen through it, it becomes their greatest weakness. They were counting on your blindness. Now, they have to face your vision. And vision, when sharpened, sees not just the pieces on the board, but the hand that moves them. Calculated sacrifices. They knew from the beginning that not every piece needed to survive for them to win. They understood something most people don't. Sometimes, you have to give up something small to take something great. And so, they made sacrifices not by accident, but by design. They let you believe you were winning. They let you claim victories that were never theirs to keep. They allowed you to take pieces off their board, thinking you had weakened them, while in reality, every loss you gave them was a step closer to the position they wanted. They didn't flinch when things seemed to be slipping from their grasp, because they had already calculated the cost. They knew what they were willing to lose, and they knew what they would never let go of. You see, in their mind, every sacrifice was a trade, and every trade was for something bigger, a position, a chance, an opening that would let them strike at the heart of the game. That's the danger of people who think like this. They're not attached to the little things, because their eyes are fixed on the crown. They'll let you walk away thinking you've outsmarted them, all while they're smiling inside, knowing the real battle hasn't even begun. And the moment you realize it, it's too late, because the moves they've made in the past have already shaped the present you're standing in. This is the same principle that wins wars, builds empires, and topples giants, the willingness to take a step back to leap forward. But here's what they never saw coming. Sacrifice works both ways. Just as they can give up small things to gain big ones, you can choose to let go of what they're chasing entirely. When you stop playing for the pieces they want, their sacrifices lose their meaning. They've given up so much to reach a target, and if the target moves out of their reach, all their careful planning collapses. That's the counter move they never expect. Not to fight for the same ground, but to change the ground entirely. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not protect every piece, but protect the one thing they can never calculate: your ability to walk away. Calculated sacrifices may seem like mastery, but they only work if the other person continues to play by the same rules. Once you step outside those rules, their entire game falls apart. And then all the pieces they lost, all the risks they took, all the careful patience they invested, it turns into regret. You can't stop someone from sacrificing, but you can make their sacrifices meaningless. And when that happens, the player who thought they were shaping the game realizes they were only playing themselves. The distraction game they knew they couldn't stop you head on, so they didn't try. Instead, they used the oldest trick in the book: make you look one way while they move the other. They dangled problems in front of you, urgent ones, loud ones, the kind that demand your attention. They fed you little fires to put out so you wouldn't notice the silent storm they were building behind you. They gave you deadlines, crises, and conflicts to solve because they understood that a busy mind is a blind mind. While you poured your energy into what they wanted you to see, they were making moves in the shadows that you would never have allowed if you were watching. That's how the distraction game works. It's not about beating you in the open. It's about making sure you're too occupied to even realize the real game is happening somewhere else. And it's clever, because distraction makes you feel like you're working hard, fighting hard, winning battles, when in truth, you're simply dancing in a corner while they rearrange the entire board. But here's the danger they never accounted for. Distractions only work when you think they matter. The moment you stop chasing every noise, every spark, every sudden urgency, they lose control. You start to notice patterns, to connect dots, to realize that all these sudden emergencies have the same source. You begin to see that the big problems they keep throwing at you are really just bait, designed to keep you away from the one place your attention would change everything. And once you see that, you stop reacting and start watching. You stop rushing to every fire and you start asking who's lighting them. That's when the distraction game begins to fall apart, because without your attention, their moves are no longer hidden, they are exposed. And exposure is the one thing a distraction artist cannot survive. So, the lesson is this: not everything that demands your attention deserves it. Learn to look past the noise. Learn to question why something is suddenly urgent. Learn to see the space between what's happening in front of you and what's moving behind it. Because when you can see both, the distraction game ends, and the one who tried to control the board realizes the spotlight they avoided is now shining directly on them. The illusion of choice. They understood something about human nature. People feel strongest when they believe they are in control. So, they never tried to chain you, never tried to shout commands or force your hand. Instead, they offered you choices, options that looked wide, open, and free. But in reality, every path you picked led to the same destination they had already decided for you. It's the oldest trick in strategy. Let the opponent believe they are leading, while quietly guiding their steps to the outcome you want. You celebrated victories, thinking they were yours, but the truth was the board had been designed so you could only move where they wanted you to. They gave you the freedom to choose the color of your cage, while making sure the walls remained theirs. And the genius of it all is that when you thought you were choosing, you defended your choices with pride. You believed in them. You invested in them. You stood by them, never realizing that your energy was fueling their design. That's what makes the illusion of choice so dangerous. It doesn't feel like control, it feels like freedom. It feels like independence, like empowerment, when in fact it's the opposite. But here's the secret they never wanted you to discover. Freedom is not about the number of doors in front of you. It's about who built the building. The moment you realize that every option they gave you was just a different road to the same trap, everything changes. You stop asking, which way should I go? And you start asking, who put these choices here? And when you ask that, the game begins to break, because suddenly you're no longer walking down the paths they've drawn, you're creating your own. And that terrifies them, because their entire power came from you believing their options were the only ones available. Once you learn to step off the board, once you understand that the real choice is not between the doors they present, but between playing their game or building your own, you take back everything they tried to take from you. They wanted you to think you were free while they steered your every step. But now you know better. You know that real power is not choosing between what's offered, but creating what was never offered at all. That is how the illusion shatters, and that is how the player becomes the master of the board. Checkmate by patience, they didn't beat you with speed, they beat you with time. While others would have rushed, trying to end the game quickly, they understood that real victory often comes to the one who can wait the longest. They didn't need to overwhelm you in one grand move. They only needed to outlast you. So they played slowly, methodically, letting the game breathe, letting you relax, letting you believe the danger had passed. They moved in ways so subtle you barely noticed, each step positioning them closer to the finish without you realizing it. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still you thought you were safe. That's the genius of patience. It doesn't alarm you, it doesn't make you panic. It makes you comfortable, and in that comfort your guard falls. You stop checking the board as carefully, you stop questioning their moves, you stop preparing for danger because nothing seems urgent. But the truth is, every moment of stillness was a move, every pause was a calculation. Every delay was a trap being set, and then, one day without warning, they strike. One move, final, decisive, irreversible, checkmate. It feels sudden, but it was years in the making. That's the danger of those who know how to wait. They don't just win the game, they rewrite its pace. But patience is not only their weapon, it can be yours. If you learn to match their stillness with your own, if you refuse to be rushed into careless moves, you take away their greatest advantage. Patience gives you vision. It allows you to see what they're building before it's complete. It allows you to read their long-term strategy, to notice the patterns they thought were invisible. And once you see the end they're working toward, you can dismantle it piece by piece before they ever get there. The truth is, patience isn't just about waiting, it's about using the wait. It's about being just as deliberate as they are, but for your own victory. They wanted you to play fast so they could play slow. But if you play slow too, the game changes. Suddenly, they have to reveal themselves, because patience only works when one side holds it. And when they realize they're no longer the only one willing to wait, their entire plan begins to crumble. So yes, they may have checkmated others by patience, but with you, that chapter ends, because the one who knows how to wait, watch, and strike at the right moment is the one who will never be cornered again.